Hello and welcome, you beautiful bookish people. This video is actually so well timed because I am so tired today and I do not feel like doing a super elaborate video. But luckily it is the beginning of August, which means we have to wrap up all of the books that I read in July, and there's actually no need for any more of an intro than that, so let's get right into it. I picked up 9 books this month. The last book that we're gonna talk about, I haven't finished it yet, but I have an hour left and I'm gonna finish it today. So I'm gonna talk about it just a little bit. So like that'll count for the 9th. So technically 8, but it's fine. It's fine. Let's get into the first one. The first book that I read is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. If you didn't know, this is actually a traditionally published version / retelling of a Dramini fanfic called The Auction. And I have not read The Auction. I have it downloaded on my Kindle, but I never got around to it. So I was really excited to read this one because I was like, you know what, it's perfect timing. I could go read The Auction, but like most Dramini fanfics are like thousands of pages. Like, I'm not even joking. I think Manacled is like 1,400 pages or something like that. But anyways, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I had the best time. The banter between these characters were absolutely incredible. The slow burn, oh, this was a delicious slow burn. And like a true slow burn too. I feel like that trope is tossed around a bunch nowadays, but this is actually a true slow burn. The only thing that knocked off 0.5 stars for me was how this book ended. It had my least favorite trope, and it kind of like took me back, and I was like, oh, I hate that's where this is going, but like I'm gonna keep my mind open to it. But this actual journey was phenomenal. This book is about Bryony Rosewood, and she is the daughter of a king in Evermore. And when this book starts, you are immediately told that Bryony's brother is dead, which is weird because Bryony's brother was sort of the chosen one. He was said to end the war between the Evermore and the Bomardi. And this war has been going on for like 4 years. It doesn't necessarily end with her brother's death, but it definitely marks a turning point. And so the Bomardi kind of take over, and they take all of the Eversons as prisoners, and they auction them off to the highest bidder to be their heartspring, which basically means the Bomardi can use the magic from the Eversons for themselves. Like it's a siphon. They can siphon off their magic, if that makes any sense. So Bryony is sold to Tovin Hurst, and she kind of grew up with Tovin because there was a treaty for a while that said every other year the students have to study in Everson, and then the next year they study in Bomardi. So like it's the same group of kids, they're just going back and forth between the lands. And so she like kind of knows him, and they don't like each other. It is so close to the like Draco is just this stuck-up dude and Hermione is like the smartest kid in class, but in this universe she kind of like has to dull that down a little bit. But the heart of Draco and Hermione are still pretty much there. But anyways, she has to go live with Tovin, and obviously things unfold while she is there. Obviously there's a lot of political intrigue. The war is not necessarily over. They're both kind of lost in the world, and they have to figure out, you know, what they're gonna do, what they stand for, what they believe in. It had secrets, it had romance, it had a really interesting magic system. I really enjoyed the twist on the magic here. So I want to be like super clear, this is not Harry Potter. You totally need to read this if you love romantasy, if you love banter, if you love tension, slow burn. This is the way to go. I hope that makes sense. Now this next book you're gonna be familiar with because I did a whole reading vlog on this on my channel. This is City of Smoke and Brimstone by Kayla Edwards, the 4th book in the House of Devil series. And I'm not gonna talk too much about this specific book because 1, I read it in a whole vlog. 2, this is the 4th book in the series. So I gave this one 5 stars. That is not a surprise to any of us. I really thought that this expanded the world in a way that we were needing so badly, and it was one of those where like a lot of new information was introduced, new ideas, and new sort of like giving you basis for theories to move forward in this world, but it didn't answer any of those. So it was an in-between book in that sense. It didn't feel like it. This book was so fast-paced. Oh my god, I couldn't even remotely take a breath until like halfway through this book. It was trauma after trauma after trauma, and the way this book ended, I was like, even in my reaction video, I was like, that's it? And not like in a bad way, like, oh, that's it, like, that's all we... No, I was like, no, there has to be more. No, I need this to keep going. I need this to be 1,000 pages. Like, this isn't long enough. This is only 700 pages. Like, what do I do? If you can't tell, I really love this book. Basically, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, this is about a human named Loren Calla, and she lives in this land where basically like humans are the bottom of the barrel. And she goes out with her friends and sister one night, and one of her friends gets captured, and she's like, what the crap do I do? So she's kind of going about her life, figuring out, you know, where is my friend? What do I do? And in this process, she finds out that she was the one that was supposed to be captured and turned in for whatever reason, because there was a bounty on her head. And one of the people hired to bring her in is none other than Darian Castle. And let me tell you, Darian Castle is my #1 book boyfriend. He reminds me of my husband so much. I love him with my entire heart. He is the best. If you have not met Darian, please go read City of Gods and Monsters. But anyways, he is hired to take in Loren. And he's like, okay, yeah, I know that you were the one that they were supposed to be capturing. So like they captured her just because like they wanted to lure you in, but why? Like you're a human. Why do you matter to them? And she basically has to go live with Darian and his little inner circle of the devils is what they call it. They are a group of dark slayers, which is basically bounty hunters with like magical powers. And he becomes her bodyguard and they have to figure out what the crap is going on. And this is the 4th book, okay? Every single book is over 700 pages and I would not have it any other way. I know there's so many people, you either love this or you hate it. You either like don't see the point, you think it's too long, or you're like, I need more. I would literally read a novella or something about these characters just going on vacation. You don't even have to have plot. Like I just want these characters. They're so good. The found family is phenomenal. I think just by the way I'm talking, I'm sure you can tell, because a lot of times I try to write down like my reviews and my thoughts and kind of get them in order for most of the books I read, which I'm going to continue to do obviously today. But this one is just, it's so easy to talk about. And I talk about it so much that it just like rolls off the tongue at this point. And obviously Throne of Glass is my all-time favorite series. I don't think anything could ever top that unless it's another Sarah J. Maas series. But still, I think that one was the first time I really truly felt like, oh my God, I love reading. But this is honestly a close second. This and Daughter of No Worlds, honestly, I think I'd say I like this more than Daughter of No Worlds. Anyways, this is gonna be a 5-book series with a possible prequel coming out, so technically 6 books. I have no idea when this is gonna happen. This one just came out this month. I was able to read an arc of this, which I was so thankful for because, literally everything I just said. Literally, I can't get enough of this book, and it's one of those and I'm like, I'm mad that I binged it because now it's over, but also like there was no way I wasn't gonna binge it, but also like now I have to wait for the 5th book and it's gonna be crazy. I just know it's gonna be crazy. Anyways, I'm gonna stop yapping about this book. Now this next book is not such a raving review. I read Silver Elite by Dani Francis. I also read this in a reading vlog, which you can go find on my channel, but this one was a 2-star read for me, and it gets 2 stars. 1, because I liked one of the characters, just one of them, and 2, because I really like the setting of a military academy. It's dystopian. It's sort of fantasy in the sense that there's a little bit of magic that goes on here and there, and it is definitely a main plot point, but it feels like divergent in the fact that like that people that have magic are the ones that are killed, the ones that are sought after, and like you can't exist. You're an abomination. You should not be here sort of thing. And so the main character has to kind of like fly under the radar. And I was really frustrated with this book because I don't know if it was just the hype that got to me, but like looking back at this, it felt so fabricated and forced. And my friend Natalie said that this author would do a better job at writing dark romance because the romance in this just fell flat for me. Like I said, it was forced. It felt like it was just there to be there. They had barely any chemistry. I felt like the main character and one of the side characters had more chemistry than the MMC and the FMC. Like I was not understanding where some of the emotions were coming from because it felt very emotionless, and I could not get behind the main character. She was so annoying to me. And every 5 sentences she was commenting on how hot the MMC is. I was like, shut up, we know. But anyways, this book is about Ren Darlington, and she is a mod in a world full of people that don't have magical powers. Mods are the people that have magical powers. And she is trying to stay in hiding for most of her life because she knows that to reveal herself is a death sentence. But all of a sudden, something happens with the uncle that she has been taking care of for most of her life, and she is basically forcefully put into this military training academy that literally trains to find mods. And so she's like, well, this is the worst place I could possibly be. And sort of throughout the book, the stakes get like not super high, but it's also like she's getting to a point in this academy where it's like, okay, this is a little bit more dangerous for you. I could understand why you're nervous. And obviously there's secrets revealed here and there. But like I said before, I actually don't have words. I thought there was a really good balance though between like political commentary. Like there was a couple lines that I'm like, okay, yeah, like that was good. I liked that. But the ending of this book really frustrated me because there was a piece of information that was dropped and it's supposed to be really big. And I guess it was really big for the FMC if she wasn't as oblivious as she was. The point of the message that like there was obviously the piece of information, but there was an underlying reason as to why this message was provided. And as a reader, it kind of felt like a slap to the face because it was one of those that I was like, okay, but that's the whole point of the book. Like the whole point of this piece of information was just reiterating the fact that war is messy. Like we get that. Both sides are flawed, which is actually really nice because it's not like it's one of those like, oh, we're fighting for our freedom and this, that, and the other. It's like, no, all sides of this war, this rebellion are messy, which usually happens in war. So I liked that aspect. And then one character named Cain, but that's about it. So I'm gonna shut my mouth about it because I don't want to be here complaining. This next book was better, I promise. This is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. I had such a fun time. This is another Draco and Hermione fanfiction as traditionally published. This one was, I think, Draco, Malfoy, and the mortifying ordeal of being in love. So yes, total mouthful for both of those books. The only thing that I was like not super big fan of in this book was kind of the writing style and the language. It was super sophisticated in a way that made it a little bit hard to read, and the rhythm of my reading, like normally you have like a basic rhythm and it's supposed to go smoothly, right? It's supposed to be easy to read, but it felt kind of choppy to me because it was so dense with these really complicated terms, and I really should have read this on my Kindle because there were so many words that I was like, I don't even know what that means. But it was so much fun though because I have never laughed so much in a fantasy book ever. It's sophisticated, yes, but there is a comedic undertone and it's really nice because it's not like a cheesy comedy. These characters are actually really, really smart. They're both very smart individuals, and so putting them together and have them being snarky and having like the best comebacks and then neither of them wanting to actually admit their feelings for each other was delicious. And this is true enemies to lovers, but like it's slow burn in the fact that like we're not even burning yet in this book. This is, I guess, just slow. But anyways, this book is about Orion and she is a healer, and it's also about Roehrich and he's an assassin, but Roehrich has this degenerative disease that basically attacks his magic to make it where one day he won't have any magic, which kind of means the death of him because the order that he is a part of in this world, if you don't have magic, like they kill you. And so he's like, oh crap, I gotta get this figured out. And he is told that Orion is the only person on the entire planet that could even attempt to cure him, but she is a healer, obviously, like I said at the beginning, and there is a pox outbreak. So she is kind of in the middle of trying to help the hospital with all of these sick kids. And so Roehrich shows up to her doorstep and is like, hey, you need to heal me. She's like, no, I know who you are. I'm not healing you. And he's like, well, what if I made a really, really big donation to your society that is tasked with healing the pox? And she's like, I don't want to, but like we have to find a cure because this is a problem. So yes, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then kind of form this like mutually beneficial relationship. And it's really funny because they're both so like angry and moody that even if they have a thought about each other that's kind of flirty, that's kind of like you're kind of getting a taste of the romance, they immediately like gaslight themselves out of it. And it's so funny. I do think that there is a very specific audience for this book. I don't think I'm necessarily that person, although I did have a fun time. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it this month. It was super short. I think, yeah, I'm glad I picked this up. Now this next book I'm not gonna talk about for super long. It is Haunting Pandora by Willow Dawes, and I was given this arc by the Nerd Fam, and I'm very grateful to be able to get arcs from the Nerd Fam and from other places, but unfortunately this one was not for me. I DNF'd it. I really loved the idea because it was a Greek mythology inspired fantasy, and so I was like, great, that's amazing, I'm right on that. But I DNF'd because the beginning felt very info dumpy in a bad way. Like it wasn't natural at all. You weren't getting the main character interacting with her environment in a logical way, and the dialogue was just, something wasn't right about it, and that's where kind of the info dump took place. This shouldn't be a super complicated beginning to a book because it's Greek mythology. We know Greek mythology. And I just, yeah, it wasn't for me, but you know, moving on. However, the next book that I read was definitely a really good book. I read Birth of a Dynasty by Chinaza Bado, and this one was a 5-star. I was totally shocked. This was another arc that I received from the Nerd Fam, and I requested it because obviously one, it seemed really interesting, but also it was very much out of my comfort zone, and I was kind of in the mood for an epic fantasy, and boy, did this deliver. I thought these characters were rich and colorful. Like I was so invested. I was so invested in these characters, and it was really cool because you had like separate storylines that were happening, and it all was interconnected, but it was all being woven together, and it came together in the end in a beautiful way. And I believe this is going to be a trilogy, so I'm very excited to see where this is going to go because I've literally never read anything like this. It was amazing. This story is about a young boy named Mukuru Mukundi, and he is a 10-year-old boy at the beginning of this, and it starts out with his whole family being killed by the people part of the Zenzele dynasty because there was an old prophecy that says the Mukundi family and the Namani families could unite to take down the Zenzele. So the Zenzele are like trying to get ahead of the curve and went ahead and tried to get rid of the whole Mukundi family just to like take the prophecy from being whatever. But Mukuru is able to escape, so he goes to a nearby village and he starts living with this old wise man who totally, oh my god, he totally reminds me of Mr. Miyagi. He is, he's so funny. It was one of those where like he's at the time jump, he's like 13 years old, and I'm just sitting there thinking from like a 13-year-old's POV that this is just hilarious because he is totally set on obviously like exacting revenge for his whole family because he watched his whole family get killed in front of him. Like that's terrible. But this old man is like,
no, you need to grow into a man. You need to learn some things first because if you try to go do the stuff right now, you're gonna fail.
And he's like, but I wanna. Anyways. But it also follows another girl named Zecora Namani, part of the Namani family, part of this prophecy. And she is the youngest in her family, so she is kind of just, you know, the golden child. Everybody loves her, whatever. She definitely speaks her mind. She's very black and white. She's one of those characters that like, she's gonna say it even if nobody wants her to say it. And I love those kinds of characters. She was totally my favorite. But she gets called upon by the Queen of Akubalin, and she's basically told that she needs to go to the capital, she needs to live there, and she's gonna study under the queen, and it's gonna be this great situation. But the Namani family knows, they're like, okay, well, I understand what's going on because you just want to keep the Namani family in line. They want to keep the Namani from even thinking about still trying to do something regardless of the fact that the Mukundi family is gone. And so she's taken to the capital, she studies, she is a very smart young girl. She is also I think she's also 13. So these are very, very young characters, but I assume in the next couple installments they'll age at least just a little bit. But there's the beginnings of like a rebellion. This is political intrigue too. Game of Thrones level, legitimately Game of Thrones level. I was absolutely obsessed. I listened to the audiobook as well. I am not an audiobook person, but I got invited to listen to it from the Nerd Fam. I got the e-arc copy and the audiobook copy. And I was like, you know what? I just DNF'd upon Pandora. I don't know how this is gonna go. So let me put on this audiobook and let me tandem read the physical and the audio just to make sure that I'm having a good time. And this audio was so good. I ended up reading basically all of it from the audio. It was amazing. That's all that I have to say about that one. I definitely think you should read it. It comes out, well, I guess it came out a couple days ago on July 29th. So it is out in the world now, so you can go read it. And if you love epic fantasy, if you love political intrigue and complicated characters, oh my God, all these characters are so complicated. There's multiple POV to so many points of view. And with every new POV, you're like, wait, we're getting her point of view? We're getting his point of view? This is crazy. But if you want a fresh story within a high fantasy, epic fantasy, you totally need to read this book. The next book that I read is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This was also part of the Silver Elite vlog, so if you haven't watched it by now, still go watch it. This one pleasantly surprised me. I wasn't too sure about it because after reading Silver Elite, I was like, oh, should I trust Book Talk ever again? But it was one of those that like I became invested in it as I was reading. I do think this could have been like 100 pages shorter, but it's fine. I loved these characters as well. Their chemistry was incredible, and it made their kind of like slower points still digestible and enjoyable and not like pulling hair out, because I actually enjoyed their banter. I enjoyed the conversations happening. And the FMC, she started out as seemingly like really helpless, kind of lost in the world. She's not one of those that's like highly trained, knows how to use a dagger, knows how to use a sword, assassin type. Like that's not her. But she kind of learns to step into a different sort of power and learns, yes, physical power, physical skills and all of that, but also there is like a turning point in the middle of the book where she's like, I'm gonna do something about this. Nobody's gonna do it if I don't step up, so here we go. And I really enjoyed that. But this is about a girl named Odessa, and she is a princess in a land called Quintus. And a long, long time ago, there was a treaty signed called the Shield of Sparrows. that basically says to keep the peace between certain territories on their continent, that every generation a princess has to be presented to a prince of another land. Like basically the princess has to go live with the prince and they have to marry. So it's basically a marriage alliance sort of thing. And she is actually not the Sparrow. Our main character is not the one chosen to be part of this treaty. It's her sister. Her sister has been trained her whole life to be the Sparrow, but the king of Quentis calls upon the king of Tura and is like, hey, we have problems with these monsters, which by the way, there's a ton of different breeds of monsters in this book, which makes it really interesting, but they were having trouble with these monsters. So the king is like, hey, I need you guys to come down here. I need you to take care of these monsters. The prince is like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm gonna come down there. We'll take care of it. But when he comes down there and he takes care of the problem, he's like, okay, I want a bride price. I want you to fulfill the Shield of Sparrows now. And they're like, yo, we can't do that. But also, okay, I guess we could do it a little bit sooner. Here is May, her older sister. And he's like, no, I want Odessa. And she's like, you can't have me. And then he's like, well, too bad, so sad. There's an old magic that is connected to the Shield of Sparrows that if you do not obey my command, your dad's gonna die. And she said, oh crap. And then her dad tells her, as she's going to leave for Tura, for this other land, hey, you should actually spy on them for me, because that's what I was training May to do. And she's like, I don't know how to do that either. So basically she's thrown into a crash course, told you need to figure out what's going on over there. You need to kill this specific person in Tura because all of this is going on, but I'm not gonna tell you exactly what it is. And so basically she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. She's trying to figure out how to spy, what information she needs. She has to learn how to get it back to her father. And there was a lot of times in this book where I'm like, okay, where are we going with it? But the ending was really satisfying because it gave us a lot of answers to questions that we needed to be answered, but not enough to where the next book is not going to be interesting. Like there's still content for the next book going to be available, I guess you could say. So we'll see what happens. I am excited for this sequel. Like I said, the only thing that I was like, it was a little slow at points, but it wasn't, I guess, noteworthy, even though I'm telling you right now. But I really liked the added point of monsters in this universe because I think a lot of fantasy books just focus on the magic, which that's totally true. And obviously, yes, we should focus on the magic because fantasy and magic go together, obviously, but also the monsters were there because the gods a long time ago were like, hey, you guys need to be kept in check. And so these humans are like constantly tortured by all of these crazy monsters, crazy creatures that are very aggressive. And I don't think we know everything we need to know right now. And I think that's going to be a major plot point in the next book. So the fact that I'm sitting here like trying to figure out what the next book is going to be about is a really good sign. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was fun. Can't wait for more. Now this last book, okay, not necessarily the last book, kind of last two books. Like I said at the beginning, there's a book that I'm currently reading that I have an hour left. And after I finish filming this, I'm gonna go sit down and finish the book. I'm so scared to finish it, but anyways, I read Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roehrich. This book, oh my god, this book was 5 stars. I loved this book. I honestly have no notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes?
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes. It's perfect.
This was perfect. I have been craving a good fae fantasy for a long time. I didn't know I was craving it. And I picked this up because I'm going to Romantasy BookCon in Orlando with Fabled Fantasy events later this year. And Melissa K. Roehrich is gonna be there. And so I said, I'm gonna buy the physical copies. I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna annotate them because I want my copy signed. And I knew this was a good book. I had so many people telling me that it was so good. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be right up your alley. Great, thanks. Okay, moving on. Like I didn't think anything of it because I get so many book recommendations every single day, especially being on social media. And then I posted a poll in my story. I was like, hey, I'm prepping for Romantasy BookCon. I have these couple books. I am a mood reader, but I can't decide which one to read now. And so this was part of it. This one didn't win, but Rachel at the Raven-Haired Reader, she voted for Lady of Darkness, and I trust her recommendations with my life. And I messaged her and I was like, I know this one isn't winning, but like you told me to read it, so I'm gonna read it. And it did not disappoint. Oh my god. I'm at a loss for words. I finished this like 2 days ago and I'm still kind of reeling because I jumped straight into Lady of Shadows, which is the next book that I was going to talk about that I still haven't finished, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, and I'm going to include it on this wrap up because I already know it's going to be a 5-star. Lady of Shadows. It's gotta be a 5-star. It honestly gave me such a Court of Mist and Fury vibes. I'm not joking to you. It kind of feels like a mixture between Throne of Glass and ACOTAR. I say that lightly though, because like I've said in the past, I usually compare things to other things and tell you to take it with a grain of salt, because if you're expecting a certain thing and I disappoint you, I don't want to be responsible. But But to me, in my brain, it was kind of reminding me of the stuff that happened in Court of Mist and Fury for Lady of Shadows. But this book, I'm not even gonna be able to give you a synopsis because I'm just at a loss for words. Hold on, let me get my thoughts together.
1 minute later.
This book is about Scarlet Monroe, and she is a highly trained assassin, part of the Death Maidens, which is a trio of assassins that are very, very feared in her continent. But through events that I can't tell you about, she is forced to live with this noble family. She is forced to be this pious, demure, perfect lady of society, which obviously an assassin that's been trained from childhood trying to be a lady, yeah, good luck. But all of a sudden, she gets a job offer from the Assassin Lord, and this could mean her freedom. And it kind of works out because the job that is set before her is to take revenge and kill the person that killed her mother. And so she's been wanting this for basically ever since her mother died. And she's like, oh, this is perfect, love this. But she's been out of practice of being an assassin basically for over a year. And she's like, I need to back up, I need to train, I need to figure this whole thing out again. And so she starts training with this mysterious general. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But of course, there's a wrench thrown into her plan, and children start going missing from the town. And she's like, hold on, this is not okay. I need to figure out what's going on. So she recruits her past friends, she recruits this mysterious newcomer, and they work to try to figure out what's going on. And that is only the tip of the iceberg. The way that this story expands and where you're like, you're introduced to this idea of, oh, the children are missing, we have to solve this problem, which yes, is totally true, but there's so much more to it than that. And everything just keeps building and building. You're like, oh my God. It's great. Needless to say, you have to read this. You have to read this. Don't be like me and put this one off. You have to read Lady of Darkness. Now, I don't want to speak too soon, but I am gonna rate Lady of Shadows 5 stars. And here's the thing. I have gotten to the lull right before the end of the book. I think I have like 60 to 70 pages left. So I know that things are about to go down. I know that there's gonna be a lot that's about to happen. And we just got a new POV where I'm like, oh my God, we get her point of view? This is crazy, but also I'm eating it up. The multiple POV in this, there's 4 POVs in the second book, which if you know me, one of the reasons why I love City of Gods and Monsters is because there's more and more POVs as the story goes on. And the author is very intentional about choosing whose POV to tell the scene in, tell the story in. And I feel that the same way with Melissa K. Roehrich, she's very intentional about giving you a lot of details about what these characters are feeling and giving you the behind the scenes of what's making them make these decisions basically. And I really like that because all of these characters are messy. They're all messed up. They all have their issues. And definitely during Lady of Shadows, I have been really frustrated, so frustrated at the male main character because also we get his point of view and like I kind of get what he means and I kind of get his intentions and it makes sense, but it's also like, oh, Scarlet is gonna hate that. And it's creating so many problems, but I think the best kinds of books are the ones where you're sitting there frustrated, you're emotional. It's eliciting all of these responses. So you can't help but sit here and be like, wow, this author is making me feel all of this. That's crazy. And granted, if I were in these characters' shoes, I would not make the same choices. Absolutely not. But that is the beauty of having all of these characters in these books. And I cannot get enough. I am only 2 books in and I cannot imagine this series ending. I don't want it to end, although I am very excited because I know that Reign of Shadows and Endings is kind of a spin-off series to the Lady of Darkness series. And I'm very excited to start that. And I'm already seeing like bits and pieces sprinkled in here that I can tell are going to be something that Reign of Shadows and Endings addresses, which makes my heart so happy because I am an SJM girly through and through, and I have this huge document where I dissect so many things in the Massverse. I have citations, I have notes, I have all of that stuff in a Google Doc because I know that all of Sarah J. Maas's universes connect, and so having Lady of Darkness and knowing a little bit about Reign of Shadows and Endings and already seeing some of the overlap is making me so happy because I love interconnected series. I think that's also why I love Marvel so much, is because everything can stand on its own, but then you put it together and it's just like, but that's all I got for Lady of Shadows. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for, yep. Okay, we're gonna try that again. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. I know this was a chill sit down video and I thank you for just yapping with me, letting me talk about the books that I have read. I had a really great month and I hope August is the same. I will see you next time, my friends. Go pick up a book today. Don't doom scroll. You are reading today. I'm telling this to myself too. Okay.